So welcome everybody. Really excited to be back out here doing live trade shows again. It's been a long time. Pretty excited. I'm very excited today to be able to speak to all of you about some fantastic new things that are going on at Vanair. And most specifically, the thing that we wanted to present to you today is a brand new product line that we've launched. And we refer to it as EPEQ. That's spelled EPEQ, and that stands for Electrified Power Equipment. So a lot of people say, why EPEQ? What's going on? What brought you here, right? Well, for those of you that know a lot about Vanair, Vanair has really focused for the last 50 years. 50 years, by the way. This is our 50th year in business, 50 years of solutions. Vanair is really focused on bringing mobile power solutions to the market, whether that would have been air, whether it would have been electrical output, whether it be welding, jump starting, boosting, hydraulics. Vanair has offered solutions for again 50 years. And to this point, those solutions have been either PTO shaft driven off of a chassis, or hydraulically driven to be able to run them, or they had their own combustion engine. And as we listen to voice of the customer and we see what's going on around in the market, we see a need, and our customers are sharing their thoughts and feelings on that need. And so all of that is kind of culminated into and all the technology that we've taken, because we've taken pieces from each of our product groups to kind of put together what we've got here for you. We've taken things that we've learned from battery technology in our Goodall line. We've taken things that we've learned from our load management and multifunction capability from our air and arc line. We've taken things that we've learned from our underdeck compressor with how we communicate through J1939 and how we interface with the trucks through CAN and through other things like that. So everything's kind of culminated and come together now to be able to offer a solution that is nothing else like it in the market. And so we talk about EPEQ being an end-to-end solution. And when I say that, I think that's really important. And to me, end-to-end means three things. So the first thing that I would say is, if in your fleet, it really doesn't matter where you're at in your journey from an internal combustion engine or an ICE vehicle to a hybrid to a fully electric. It really doesn't matter, because this equipment is agnostic. It doesn't care, right? So this can be integrated into a vehicle with an internal combustion engine, a hybrid vehicle, or a fully electric vehicle. So that's one piece. Another thing that we talk about from it being an end-to-end solution is because, again, all of the different products that we've offered previously that would have been hydraulically driven or would have been driven by a combustion engine, again, the welding, the electrical output, the air compressor, charging, all of those different things, we offer all of that electrified now as well. So pretty much anything that you could be looking for from an electrified power solution, we have that for you. And then the last thing that I think is very important when we talk about an end-to-end solution is that the thing that Vanair has done and that we've embraced and that we're doing different is that we have decided that through the entire portion of your electrification process, from battery through driven component, through methods by recharging, every piece of it, Vanair's got you covered. So that all starts with, well, and let me back up first and say this. Some of this first technology started, again, I talked about three different product lines. Some of it started back in 2009 with an acquisition that Vanair did of Air and Arc. Some of it started in 2017, 2018 with an acquisition that Vanair did with Goodall, and some of it's been technology that they've been doing for 50 years with interfacing with vehicles and things like that. And so again, all of that coming together, it's been nothing but a lot of hard work by our engineering team. I want to take a moment to introduce to you our Director of Engineering, Kai Justice. I also wanted to introduce you, I've got Chip Jones. Chip Jones has been on our sales team for about 5 years now. Chip is kind of shifting roles a little bit for us, and Chip is going to be our strategic manager that is going to be managing the sales of all of our EPEQ product, as well as the key accounts for our EPEQ product. Product development, he'll be having voice of the customer with engineering on that. So we're going to get started and tell you a little bit about the product. And it all kinds of start with what we say is the heart of the system. What you see here is Vanair's entry-level brand. This is our base model battery, and our brand for the battery is Element. Got a little play on the periodic table, if you will, for the lithium and Element. These are lithium iron phosphate, very safe. Those of you that have been out there looking at what's going on from an electrification standpoint, some people have some familiarity with the different chemistries that are out there, but this is one of the safest battery chemistries that you can use. So inside of this package, so this is a 48 volt, 5 kilowatt battery pack. We started with this battery pack because 5 kilowatts seems to fit the need for some of our entry-level products as we walk into the service market. And so that's kind of how we started. Inside of here, there's 16 cells. We have our own proprietary battery management system, or BMS, that communicates with the cells to be able to do all the load leveling, all the safety things that need to happen, as well as that's where the brain is for all those things that I talked about that we learned from some of our other products from a load management standpoint. So where we're talking about understanding all the different components that somebody may want to run, but being able to do that in the most efficient way possible to be able to extend battery life, that's taken care of in the brains of this system, done with our battery management system. Kai or Chip, do you got anything to add to that?
Yep. One thing we'll point out is that the components that you see, as Dean goes through them, they're all fairly plug and play. So you'll see here we've got some simple Anderson connectors, plug the components in. All the different components communicate through that battery management system, and Dean will talk more about that as we go through it. But that's one of the great things about this group, this whole product category, is that everything communicates through the CAN communications. So everything is really plug and play. It's easy to move from one vehicle to the next. It's all fairly modular, so you can add components down the road if your needs change as a customer. So it's all very, very easy to install. Really nice setup.
Yeah, the whole idea was to make it very upfitter friendly. So we've added some features such as the handles, so they can be carried and moved very easily, or you can do lift points. Then right on the battery, there's different points to mount down to the chassis. So that kind of adds to like the plug and play, being very easy to quickly install.
And this battery will actually take the place of a much larger group of lead acid batteries. So we're at 95 pounds here, about 13-inch cube for this box here, whereas lead acid setup would be probably 300 pounds and take up about the 3-foot section. So much more compact, much lighter for saving for payload capacity on vehicles as well.
Yeah, with the lead acid you might have 300 to 600 cycles, whereas this you could have 3,000 to 5,000 cycles.
Yeah, so significantly longer life in a product like that. So, so then you say, oh, and I should say too, this is just one of our battery products. So again, this is a 48 volt, 5 kilowatt battery. We also, very soon we'll be launching a 48 volts, about a 7.5 kilowatt battery. We're doing that because it pairs nicely with some of the other driven components that we had, so you can still continue to utilize one battery instead of maybe stepping up to two. When I work my way over here in just a minute, we're also going to show you some 300 volt batteries up to 30 kilowatt and some things that we're doing there. I'm going to go ahead and step over here. Vanair, at the heart, when they first started, really we were an air compressor company, so I'm going to start here with our EPEQ Air 20. So what you see here is just your basic piston or reciprocating type compressor. This particular compressor builds up the pressure, obviously has to utilize a pressure vessel or an air tank. One of the things that's unique, and when we talk about Vanair as the end-to-end solution, you might find manufacturers out there that sell a battery. You might find another manufacturer out there that sells a compressor. You might find another manufacturer out there that sells an electric motor to be able to drive it. But we really understand what we need to do to be able to optimize longevity from a battery perspective, but we also really understand our driven components and how we need to optimize this system to improve efficiency. So some of the things that we've done in the motor and the motor controller on here, we have some proprietary things that we're doing that are patent pending that we've done to optimize these systems. And when we took this base model in our first studies and our first tests that we went out and did, and just running it with kind of a stock off-the-shelf motor and a controller versus when we did some optimizing to this, we were able to gain up to 20% efficiency in that process. So again, what does that account for? It accounts for a lot longer battery life. You're going to have a lot longer runtime. So that's some of the things in the value that Vanair is bringing. Again, so 20 CFM, reciprocating compressor. A lot of people ask, okay, but I've got this battery. How long does it run? What can I do with it, right? So this type of compressor, as I said, it utilizes an air tank, and it builds to a set pressure. Let's say for this example that it's 150 PSI. And then when that pressure drops to a certain set point, then the compressor kicks on and it builds back up. So for the statement here to be able to illustrate what kind of production you can get from it, what kind of life you can expect out of this battery, if we asked this battery to run this compressor to pump up that tank from 100 to 150, it would do 770 recharges of that tank on one battery life, far more than most people are probably going to get in a day. So pretty aggressive. Okay, Chip or Kai, you got anything to add to that?
Oh, that's great.
Yep. The one thing I'll mention is the compressor that we're using on this is actually one that we use in many other applications. It's been around for many years in our lineup on different products, so it's a proven compressor. We stock obviously the replacement parts for it. Very easy to maintain these systems. There's not a lot of maintenance that's required. So cost saving over the life of the vehicle is really going to add up quick.
Yeah, very good point. So the service kits for a lot of these are the same service kits that many of these people are purchasing today for the other equipment that they have in their fleet, because that's been something that we've had for a long time. So the next one, we step up just a little bit in capacity and output, and we go from a compressor that needed that air tank to pump back and forth to we have air on demand, rotary screw compressor. Okay, so I would like to introduce our EPEQ Air 45. So basically the same concepts again. The motor and motor controller are inside of this housing right here. They've been optimized to the specific driven component. And basically what we would do is we would work with the end user to be able to determine exactly what is their air need. This particular unit can run air on demand anywhere between 20 and 45 CFM. So we'll limit that kind of through the controller based on what that application is or what the customer's looking for. And we'll set kind of the top end performance of that. So rotary screw compressor, again, perfect for running up to a 1-inch impact, inflating tires, lots of different things like that. So those are kind of really focused on service industry and things of that nature. As we move a little bit farther, as I'd indicated over here when we talked about different batteries, I'd like to point out on the truck there, if you could step out of the way for a second. On the truck there, you can see right behind the cab, what you see standing up with that logo on there, that is also a battery. That is a 300 volt, 30 kilowatt lithium ion battery. So still in the element family, same chemistry that we're using on the 5 kW battery over here, just obviously scaled. As I said, one of the things that Vanair done for a long time, as a matter of fact, it was kind of where they cut their teeth, was on PTO driven compressors, right? So we were taking power off the transmission through a drive shaft running a compressor. This particular truck does not even have a PTO provision on it. So what we're trying to illustrate here, again, it doesn't matter if it's a combustion engine vehicle, it doesn't matter if it's hybrid, it doesn't matter if it's fully electric like this fully electric vehicle over here, we're going to be able to provide a solution for you. So this particular unit and what we're showing here as well, you can get it in a configuration where it can be mounted the way we would have traditionally done it, integrated into a chassis underneath where all the components are hidden. By the time the body goes on there, you don't really see anything on there. Or if you wanted it more in a modular setting, you could do it in a module, something like this. Now, of course, this is for display. It wouldn't look exactly like this when it goes to the field. But basically what we're trying to do here is show you the components that are on this chassis and that would show you how we would run this particular compressor. This particular compressor, again, it's 160 CFM, capable of 150 PSI. It's driven by a 300 volt liquid cooled motor. It's, again, staying with the theme of clean, quiet power. I haven't said that enough, but really that's really some of the impetus behind this. Again, whether you're driving to your initiative of trying to be green for cutting carbon emissions, whether you're working in an environment that is either more rural or inside of an enclosed space that you're trying to cut the sound, this really satisfies all those things. And we're going to run this here for just a second. But before I do, another thing that I wanted to talk about is this separator tank right here. So this is an oil flooded rotary screw. This is the tank that separates the air oil mixture after the air is compressed and then allows you to get air out the discharge and then returns the oil to the air end for further lubrication and for cooling. Something new with this tank. In the past, and on all of our other applications, when you stop using air, there's a process of blowdown where this tank has to decompress the pressure inside of it before you can re-engage it, right? So you take that pressure and that load off of that component before you re-engage it. And a typical blowdown process in any other underdeck compressor or in a towable compressor or any other compressor that you would have seen of something of this magnitude in rotary screw, that blowdown time would have been something along the lines of a minute to a minute and 15 seconds to blow that down. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start this up and we're going to show the unit and how it runs. And then the second part is, right after I shut it off, what I want you to pay attention to is this particular tank, we're branding this as our Zero tank. This tank actually has some patented technologies, some things that are going on inside of the tank itself, and we're able to reduce that blowdown time from a minute to a minute and a half down to 8 seconds or so. Okay, so significant reduction. Why is that important? Especially, it's important for many applications, but especially on electric, because this particular unit, like our combustion engine or shaft-driven unit, it will follow pressure, so it's going to see the demand that the customer's using, and it'll ramp up and down in RPM based on the customer's demand. But the other thing that this unit will do, when it sees that you have not demanded air for a period of time, it's going to shut itself off, and it's going to be in standby mode, and it's going to be waiting, it's going to be completely silent. Best way to optimize the battery and get the longest battery life possible. When it sees the pressure in the line is dropped, it will restart, and it will come back on. And again, so from that restarting perspective, that's part of the reason for the zero tank. So the first thing I'm going to do is start it. I'll just let it run for just a few seconds here so you can kind of get the idea from the sound of that. And then as I shut it off, you'll hear some air dispersing from this tank right here, and you'll see in a typical application, that would have been 60 to 75 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up. So anybody who's ever been around any of our demonstrations before, or if you can remember last I.C.E, significantly quieter than what you would have seen when we were running it off the transmission. And you can hear that air dispersing, and we're already at 3 PSI. I could have re-engaged. So just that quick, we could have restarted.
One thing to add too, Dean, is previously our PTO applications, roll and go was often an issue because the PTO is tied to the speed of the vehicle. You'd have to either creep along, especially if you're doing like paint striping. With this, the air is not tied to the speed of the vehicle. So it actually opens up the applications that this system can do.
Right, so certainly those that are, again, on their initiative to be able to cut their carbon footprint, reduce noise, roll and go applications, we've got solutions.
Real quick, one thing to point out for media purposes, the tank, the zero is XERO, and that is, we do have literature and things like that, so just make sure to clarify the spelling there.
Anything else on that?
I know, did you want to talk about the size of the utility mount versus like how much power this is? I mean,
Yeah, so you could say, so just from a comparative standpoint, what you see in here in this package, if it were being driven by a combustion engine, say a diesel engine, this particular unit on a truck would be about between 22 and 2,500 pounds. So what you see, we've more than cut that in half. So this could be mounted, in any number of mounting applications above deck. And again, most of the things are plumbed already for you, so if someone doesn't want to take the time to be doing a full install of scatter mounted components to get it underneath, we do offer solutions that are in modular systems ready to go as well. So I'm going to move up here to this next unit. As I talked about end-to-end solutions earlier, I talked about internal combustion engine, I talked about hybrid, and I talked about full EV. This particular unit is a scroll compressor, so this is oil-free air. This particular unit could be used for, let's say the utility companies today are working down in a trench and they need breathing air, they need oil-free air. This particular unit could be used for that. Where it's really making a splash today in all of the electrification efforts across the country is we are working with multiple electric vehicle and electric equipment manufacturers with this compressor integrated into their vehicle or into their chassis or equipment, tied into their traction battery. And this air would be used for air brakes, could be used for suspension, could be used for like on a bus where you do the kneeling, where you lean the side down. So oil-free air for those applications. So again, we're not just looking to provide solutions for the service industry and the construction industry. We're also moving into that OE equipment manufacturer standpoint with this particular solution, again, for those that I mentioned. And that's actually kind of where this model specifically was designed for. What you have here is hydraulic output. So in an EPEQ solution, you would have, generally the base could be the motor driving the hydraulic pump, and that may be the end of it. You may choose to integrate it beyond there. Or you may choose that we do a total modular package where we're providing the reservoir, the solenoids, the valving, everything needed to be able to run. Maybe you want to retrofit on an elevated work platform. Maybe you want to do it on a bucket truck. Maybe you want to do it on a unit with a telescopic crane. We can do all that. Maybe you want to run hydraulic tools, we can do that as well. This particular package, as you see it here, is actually the exact unit that goes on a power steering for a full electric bus. So air brakes, kneeling and suspension for the bus, and this is full power steering for that same bus. Anything to add there, guys?
Also used for the cranes. We want to do electric cranes.
Sure, as I said, buckets, aerial work, elevated work platforms, telescopic cranes, all of those things. So I'm going to take a step back over here to the white box back here. I'm going to introduce you to our EPEQ welder. So this particular unit, as you can see, is our EPEQ welder. This is the Welder 140. This particular unit has its own integrated battery pack inside of it. We've developed this for, we're more mobile environment today. This is 33 pounds. And as a point of note, for the service industry, some of these guys that are pulling into a yard and they got all these tractor trailers that are backed up in the row, and maybe at the back of that there's a mud flat bracket that's broken, or part of the lift gate is cracked and they need to get back there to be able to repair that. This is actually lighter than 50 pounds of weld cables. So they could carry this right to the back of that trailer and be able to weld off of that. This particular unit, when run at 100% duty cycle, can weld for about an hour on a single charge, and it has a 120 volt plug that you can plug into either an inverter or shore power after that to be able to recharge it. Any comment there? So we've talked a lot about things that you can drive from the battery. Now a lot of people say, well, how do I recharge it? What do I do, right? And we have solutions, again, depending on what your application is. So the first one that I would address is if you have an internal combustion engine vehicle. Vanair is manufacturing our own proprietary alternators. This is a 48 volt 5 kW alternator, so it's paired with our 5 kW battery. Simply what you would do is you would have a secondary alternator bracket underneath the vehicle. Anytime that the vehicle is running, you're recharging the battery. One of the unique things about our battery as well is you could be running the truck, charging the battery at the same time you are discharging. So our battery can take charge and discharge at the same time. Pretty unique feature. So we developed our own regulator in order to be able to do that. It has various stages of charge capability that enables to do that and make sure that it does it safely and understand everything that's going on with that unit. Let's say that the battery is a state of roughly 20% of charge. With this particular unit, we can bring that up to about 90% state of charge in roughly about an hour. Okay, and then that final topping off and that cell balancing is what takes a little bit longer. Maybe you still have a combustion engine, but you choose not to go with the secondary alternator bracket. We have what's called a DC to DC converter. So you tie into the 12 volt system of the vehicle itself. So this would connect to the 12 volt vehicle battery. And from that, we are converting that, and indicated by the orange cable, the higher voltage, we're converting that to 48 volt and putting it back into the battery. So we actually have two sizes of DC to DC converters. We have a 30 and a 60. When I say size, I should say output, because they both are in the same case. It's just a matter of whether we have one or two stacked inside of here. So they're all in the same case. Other ways that you can charge that battery back is shore power. So you, and I'll show a charger over here when we get around to this truck. So you get back to the garage at night, you want to plug into a 110 wall outlet, you can do that and be able to charge that battery back as well. And very soon, and I'll let maybe Kai speak to that if it's a 2022 thing, but we expect to be able to offer solutions for solar charging as well. Kai, anything to add there?
No, I mean, solar charging is being used today in the reefer vehicles. So if you already have solar on the vehicle, we can integrate right into that.
And one thing to point out too, as we mentioned earlier about the plug and play, so even these components will communicate back to our battery management system. So the battery management system will recognize what you're using to charge that battery with, and it'll request power accordingly, so the two communicate back and forth. So they are communicating, and all that. Again, it's just very simple to plug in and go.
So another form of power that you can take from the battery, this is actually an inverter. So this is a 48 volt inverter. So it takes that 48 volt input and it outputs 120 volts. So if you need 120 volt on your vehicle, we have an EPEQ 3000 inverter to be able to do that. We also have, just inside the vehicle here, and I'll show you again as we finish here and I step around, we have a 5,000 watt inverter. And the neat thing about the 5,000 watt inverter is it's stackable. Well, what does that mean? Stackable in the literal sense that it does actually stack together and connect together, but even more so in the fact that the computers inside of them talk to each other, and it will actually work like a 10,000 watt inverter when you put two together, or a 15,000 watt inverter when you put three together. So stackable converter, and we'll show that there in a minute. This happens to be another type of converter. So let's say that you're stopped on the job site, you're gonna be there for the day, you've got rotating beacons and work lights and all of your safety lights and things like that, and you don't wanna run them off the vehicle itself. This is actually a converter that converts the other way. So it's gonna take the 48 volt from my battery, convert it back to 12 volt. In this particular unit, actually, we can set it, we can go from 48 to 36 to 24 to 12, whatever the application requires. But this is the method by which you'd be using that battery for the total system, and then you could be running, again, all of your work lights, anything 12 volt, right? You could be running from there. Another thing that's gonna be really big, this is electric vehicle charging. So today, there are essentially three forms of ways that you can, or terminals you can charge back an electric vehicle with. They have level 1, level 2, and level 3. This is a level 1 and level 2 charger. Level 1 simply means that we take 120 volt AC and we output that, and as you can see here, there's five ports here. So 3 of them are the 3 different legs, the positive, neutral, and ground for your 120 volt. The other 2 ports that you see are the communication protocol. So inside of here, we will set this based on the application that it's going to be used for to make sure we aren't overdrawing and blowing any breakers. And this then, through these communication ports, will talk to an electric vehicle. It will say, I'm here, here's what I can give you. It initializes that vehicle, it knows what power output is capable from this unit, and it provides power. So level 1 is possible through here. Again, that's 120 volt AC to a built-in charger on a vehicle, and level 2 is also possible on here, and you can do 240 volt AC into a vehicle. Another interesting note is our big 300 volt 30 kW battery over there is equipped to be able to accept level 2 charging. So much faster recharge time than if you were doing traditional 110 shore power plug. Very soon also, we expect to be offering level 3 charging. So DC to DC charging, that's that fast charge that everybody talks about. We've got a lot of things that are in development. Quite frankly, there could end up being 2 separate models, but we believe we are gonna have the best mobile level 3 charger on the planet by the time we're finished. And we're really excited to bring that to you, and hopefully we're gonna be able to show that to you all in the spring. Anything to add to either one of those points?
Now, one thing I will mention, not only we're working on this for our service vehicles and put-in service vehicles, but we're also looking at some applications to remote mount these. So actually put them in places where they don't have access to a 240 volt outlet. Now they can have level 2 charging. So on construction sites, things like that, there's ways that we can put these on a cart so that you can roll it next to the vehicle when you don't have access to the infrastructure for a 240 outlet.
Yeah, so it's something I should point out. So as I said, level 1 and level 2 charger, it takes 120 or 240 volt AC. It doesn't really care where that comes from. It could be in your garage and you could be plugged into an outlet. It could be from any one of the other Vanair pieces of equipment that you see out here that has a generator on it that's producing AC output, and you could do that. But for our EPEQ solution, the solution for EV vehicles, the one that we believe makes the most sense, the one that's the most environmentally conscious, and the one that our customers, that voice of customer, is telling us that they want the most, is we're pairing it with batteries. So we're gonna use batteries through an inverter to be able to provide output, and I have that in this truck right here. So as you can see up here on the shelf to my left, I have 2 of the 5 kW batteries over there. So we have 10 kilowatt in total. It's kind of tucked around the side here, but I'll let y'all come up here whenever I finish. There are 2 of our 5,000 watt stackable inverters that are there. They're tied together, so they're acting as a 10,000 watt inverter. And then you'll see the charging station and the level 2 charger. So essentially, purely from those 2 batteries, I can charge this vehicle. I have here some of the same compressors that we had over there. I have them hooked up here to be able to show you just from, again, that clean, quiet power, significantly quieter than other solutions that would have been offered for enclosed spaces like this before. You've probably seen a lot of people running around out there with something that's got a Honda or a Kohler engine in the back of there. You've got a lot of noise, you've got a lot of heat, you've got the fumes, you've got all that to deal with, and we've brought a solution that is significantly quieter. Chip, why don't you show them what we got?
Okay. So, as Dean mentioned, we've got our setup here with our two compressors that you saw earlier, our 45 CFM rotary screw compressor and our 20 CFM recip compressor. So the screen that you see here on the top will actually control our rotary screw compressor. This box will actually control our recip compressor. Going forward, we'll actually plan to use the same screen for our recip as well. So this will be kind of the standard box going forward across the line on our EPEQ compressor lineup. So first up, we'll so you kind of hear a click, everything's engaging now. So our two batteries are what we're using to drive these compressors. First, we'll start off with our recip compressor here. We do have two different speeds, so we can run it at 20 CFM air output or 10 CFM. So if you have a customer that's doing some small tools, they just need small air, they'll actually use a smaller one. So hit the button. So this is actually our rotary screw compressor running here. Shut it down so you can hear it. But if you can see on the screen here, it'll actually show you the air pressure that we've got coming out of the unit. So it's going up to our air pressure, giving you all the readings here on the screen. So that was the rotary screw. We're not aware of anyone else in the industry that has anything close to this electrically driven. 45 CFM, yep. 150 PSI air output.
And how's that for compact,
changer.
Right? Very compact.
Small, very quiet. And keep in mind, this is an empty truck, so the noise is actually going to be amplified here versus if you had it in a truck that had equipment in it. We'll run our recip compressor here now. As I mentioned, we got two speeds. So we'll flip the switch on. So right there, we're getting 10 CFM of air, which is far and above what most shop air compressors that you have in your garage would put out if you go to the store and get an electric air compressor. We can bump it up. Now we're getting 20 CFM. We're filling up our air tank here. You can see the gauge going fairly quickly. So we can run at that 20 CFM and power just about any impact, the bigger impact that you want to run off of it to fill tires, things like that. And again, 20 CFM, 150 PSI air pressure out of this.
Kai, do you have anything to add to that?
Got it.
So that's a pretty quick flyover of our EPEQ products. Again, very excited to be able to talk to you guys about those. Myself, Chip, and Kai are available afterward to be able to answer some more questions. Again, this is kind of the culmination of a lot of years of work, a lot of hours, a lot of time put in. Kai leads a team of 25 engineers, and our engineering group continues to be able to grow at Vanair to be able to continue to bring you new solutions. And on that note, this isn't everything we've done, and I'd be glad to talk to any of you individually. We have 3 other brand new products that are here as well. We have our brand new gas viper product that I'd love to be able to speak to you on the side about. We have a brand new electric tool lift over there to be able to lift tools up to 350 pounds safely so that guys aren't breaking their back. We've got a brand new product in our cap start lineup over there, a hydraulic cap start. We'd love to be able to talk to you guys about that stuff too, and we're not done. We have more than 4 new models that we're going to be launching in the spring of next year. So come see us in the spring season for trade shows. We got some fantastic things coming, some big announcements to make. Thanks for joining us today.